Okay, everybody, welcome back. Today, I am very excited to introduce once again one of the most incredible human beings I've ever met. I've known for years now. This guy is super cool. Guys, I'd love to introduce you to Jordan. Jordan is a high performance and self love coach. He helps entrepreneurs in relationships create 21 hours of quality time a week without sacrificing their health, which, believe it or not, can be a struggle, right? Jordan does this by helping his clients build the habits they need to achieve the success they desire. And he does so by using habit automation. Jordan, thank you so much for joining us again. Our last conversation was awesome, but I'm even all the more excited for today's conversation. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me again. It's an honor to be here. I appreciate the epic introduction. And yeah, definitely has been some years that we've been able to grow and kind of be apart and come back together and be in each other's lives. That's been a cool experience.
It's
And
so
yeah, just quickly to those who are like, what is high performance? What is self-love? I just like to describe that quick. Those are the people who haven't heard it. And I describe high performance as being really productive without burning out, which we'll probably get into today. And the self-love aspect, which we kind of talked more about in the last episode, to be really happy even when you procrastinate.
Right, absolutely. I'm actually really excited to hear more and learn more about burnout and your expertise with burnout and sleep, not just because it's a really cool and interesting concept. And I really do believe more people need to know about it, especially entrepreneurs or just hard workers, right? But also because I've reached out to you literally, I don't know, weeks ago. So I was like, man, I need Jordan. I need his help because of burnout, right? So it's such an important topic to touch on. So for those of you, or for those who are listening, and some may not even know what burnout is, how would you best describe that to our listeners?
That's such a great question. Yeah, it's great because I feel like to me, burnout is specific for every individual.
Right.
Because like I know some people who can crash like no sleep and like actually work all day.
Mhm.
I get anything less than 6 hours of sleep, like I literally like I can like I'm burnt out.
Yeah.
Like that's what happens to me. So I definitely want to mention that to everybody. Is like to me, burnout is like it's individualistic. So everyone has their own level of burnout,
Mhm.
and we can't compare ourselves to other people.
Right.
That's a big thing. Like we like to do that in society. We see everyone's like success on social media and everything, and it's like, oh, everyone's like Elon Musk is working 90 hours a week. I have to work 90 hours a week. And it's like, no, like you don't actually know what's involved in that.
Yeah.
And you're also not that person. You are you. You're unique who you are. And to get, even if you wanted to work 90 hours a week, like that takes time to build that muscle. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, going to the gym is like a good example. Like you want to lift weights, like you start with the weight that you can lift,
Mhm.
and then you get more and more and more and more. You just go and pick up a super heavy weight because you can't actually do that.
Mhm.
So that's the same with burnout and like the amount that we actually want to work. It's completely dependent on who you are as a person and like where you're at with building the muscle of like wanting to get lots of work done.
Right.
So that's the first point I want to make. But then like what is burnout? Burnout is the point where at some point you wake up on the couch and you don't remember that you went to the couch.
Yeah.
That's what happened to me. So burnout is like when you like your body's like, nah. Like when you crash, like you've been pushing, you've been sleeping, whatever, coffee, caffeine, energy drinks, whatever, and like you're like you pushing. And all of a sudden, I mean, I had like two experiences that I would really define as burnout. It's like one, like when I used to get 6 hours of sleep a night and work 10, 12-hour days, like 6 days a week. Yeah, some nights I'd like wake up on the couch at 9 p.m. and I'd be like, when the fuck did I get here? Like how did I get on the couch? So the body is like telling me like I need rest. The other thing that happened to me was actually really scary was on one of my drives home from work. I used to work on wind turbines,
Mhm.
and yeah, we work like 10, 12-hour days and like physical labor too. And wind farms aren't in the cities. They're like outside of the city because where the wind is.
Mhm.
So I had to about a 40-minute drive home from the site. So I was like on my way home, I'm driving and I have some almonds and I have some water to try and keep me awake because I love was getting sleepy. So I'm like snacking. But then I finished the almonds, I finished the water. And I'm like dozing off and I'm like kind of sleepy. So I roll the windows down. It's like summer, country roads, and like cruising. And then all of a sudden, I wake up and I start to come to, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like,
Right.
so I stop the car, pull over, I turn around, I go back the other way. So I'm like, I don't even know where I am.
Wow.
And I'm going and I'm going and I'm going.
Mm.
And I finally hit a stop sign. And it's in that moment that I don't remember going through that stop sign,
Ah, yikes.
which means I was asleep for like a minute behind the
Oh,
wheel on this country road and I went through a stop sign.
oh
And
man.
thankfully, I woke up in time
Mm.
to not go into the ditch and crash my car and also didn't veer off or get hit by oncoming traffic the other way.
Mhm.
So that's another example of burnout is like when your body just shuts down, like that's when you know that you've officially burned out.
Oh my gosh, that's scary. That's really scary. So then, so what exactly was, I mean, I know like you right, like right then and there after you experienced that, where you're like, oh my God, I think I'm burnt out? Or was it, because I'm curious about the difference between like being burnt out and just being fatigued, right? Because I know for myself, that's something that I went through, right? Like I was like, man, am I just tired? But then actually maybe this is it. Like I went to sleep and nothing would really change. Right. I'd still, it's like you like waking up and you feel done, like motivation's gone and so on and so forth. And just like, what the hell's happening? This is my dream. So when this happened, did you like what was the thought process that went through your mind? Other than like, holy fuck, that was terrifying.
Yeah, it's crazy because like that moment of like me falling asleep at the wheel
Yeah.
wasn't actually enough to shift my mindset.
Yeah.
And nothing actually shifted like with like burnout and energy until I actually read this book called Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker,
Mhm.
which was just recommended to some of my band friends at the time. And that book just like completely changed my life.
Yeah.
Like this guy's been studying sleep for like 20 years and he wrote a book about it. And then I was
Wow.
like the amount of education, like we have no education on sleep,
Yeah.
none of it. We just try not to sleep. That's kind of like the condition we have.
It's true.
Sleep less. That's all we
Yeah.
know. Or like 8 hours of sleep, which is still isn't even true, which is crazy. But
Yeah.
yeah, so it really wasn't until I got that book till I changed my mindset. Like I feel like that's the question you're asking, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and then just like, was it an instant like thought, oh my gosh, I think I'm burnt out? Or was it like
Oh,
just
okay, yeah, that aspect. Okay, yeah, that's what I
yeah,
wanted to say. Okay, so what I wanted to say, like, if you want to know if you're burnt out or if you're like exhausting yourself, like go to bed and don't set an alarm and like make it as dark as possible and just like get up whenever you get up. Like I mean, like make the goal to be like, how fucking long can I sleep?
yeah,
Make that the goal. Because then you'll be like, oh, this is what it feels like to be rested.
right.
And if that's like a new sensation to you,
Mhm.
then you know how tired you are, right? Because like I've done this sometimes where I'll be in bed for like 14 hours. It's like a full like sleep. I get like maybe like 12 and a half, 13 hours of actual sleep.
Yeah,
That's a lot of sleep. Like that's double, triple the amounts people get every night.
yeah,
So like that's a really good test is like, how tired am I? Like, am I burnt out? Like if you can go to sleep and like sleep like 14 hours,
yeah,
like you're pretty much exhausting yourself every single day. Because like you
right.
shouldn't be able to do that. Because if you're getting enough sleep every day, like you'll max out around like 9.5 hours of sleep.
Hmm.
Like when I have lots of good sleep, like that's where I get max out. I'm like I get well, it's 6 sleep cycles, which we can get into, but like getting 9 hours and 14 minutes of sleep. Like if I do that 3 times a week, I'm great.
Amazing. And so now do you schedule that in? Because like I know like I mean you're a super busy guy, right? And you have big dreams and you're literally those dreams are coming true as you work because you put in the effort. But like so knowing how much work, like how much of a workload you have, do you literally schedule in, okay, like Monday night, I'm going to get this much sleep, and then maybe Wednesday and Friday or something like that? Or is it just kind of like
Mhm.
you're having like or you start to feel really tired that day and you're like, okay, tonight's the night, I'm going to sleep this long. How does that work for you?
Yeah, it's been more of the latter because yeah, I've been just like really working and building this whole high performance tracking system.
Yeah,
So I want to mention that too. Is like there's gonna be times in our lives when we have sprints, is what I like to call them, and in
right.
those sprints we're gonna sacrifice some sleep, and that's okay. But what we don't want is to make that consistent for the rest of our lives because then that's a 40-year problem when we get dementia and diabetes when we're 60 or 70.
Right.
But there's times like where I'm right now is like for people like 6, maybe 8 weeks, where I'm in this big sprint and I'm building something. So I'm getting a little bit less sleep. And the sleep has also been affected because I'm so intensely diving into a new project that I start dreaming about it. And when I dream about it, I get woken up in the middle of my sleep.
Yeah. Big
So that
relief.
happens. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of entrepreneurs have been there. Like we're so focused and we love what we're doing. We're solving problems while we sleep because that's what the brain
Mhm.
does. and then it spikes our cortisol, we get stressed and we wake up, and then it's like, and then you're thinking about it. So
Yeah.
usually now I just like go and work for an hour and then go back to bed for a bit.
Yeah.
So definitely want to note like that happens, but making that your consistent life over the long term is you're just slowly killing yourself.
Yeah.
So, but my ideal like natural high performer sleep schedule is, yeah, so basically, yeah, so Monday, Tuesday, I get 5 sleep cycles. And then Wednesday, Wednesday or like sometime during the week, I can afford 4 sleep cycles.
Okay.
And then Thursday, I'll get 5 sleep cycles. And if I can do Friday, Saturday, Sunday with 6 sleep cycles, that's my goal. So all of these are like different amounts of sleep.
Yeah.
And this is where I think, this is my personal opinion, is like we've been lied to about sleep, is because it's actually, we want to focus on sleep cycles. And it's the fact that we can schedule our sleep and like catch up on sleep in a way.
Right. Yeah.
Like we can't actually catch up on sleep. Like if you get 6 hours of sleep tonight and you get 12 tomorrow night, like you still missed out on sleep last night. Like you can't get that back, but you can always sleep more, which in turn is like kind of catching up on sleep. And I'm doing like quotations if people are listening to the audio here.
Yeah.
Because yeah, like we need sleep. So like getting as much as you can is the goal. It's not like, oh, I can't catch up on sleep, so I might as well just get 5 hours a night. It's like, no, like you can schedule this. So the biggest thing, why I like this is because, yeah, like if I kind of drain myself during the week, I catch up on the weekend.
Yeah.
And the way that this works the best is by going to bed at the same time every night.
Yeah.
Like that's the consistency, right? So if I stay up till 2 a.m. on the weekends, then I'm messing everything up.
Yeah.
But if I can consistently go to bed between like 9:45 and 10:15, which is my goal, like a 30-minute window. If I can consistently go to bed at that time, then I can get up at 6, and get 5 sleep cycles, and then I can also get up at like 4:30, or like earlier, if I get 4 sleep cycles. But on the weekend, I get up at like 7 or 8. And that's fine for me because that's still early enough and I'm not going right into work in the morning on the weekends.
Right.
So that to me, like that's like a holistic approach of like having like a perfect sleep week, where there's not like during the week, you got to crush it and get work done and you might have to sacrifice a sleep cycle.
Right.
But you're catching up on the weekend because there's less work, or at least you're taking one day off, which is definitely part of the natural high performance week that I like to schedule, is like a full day off on Saturday. That to me is like a fully balanced week where, yeah, it's like I have the ability to push, but I'm taking care of myself in the whole process.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. So what are some signs, would you say, that would signify that, or that would tell someone like, okay, maybe I'm starting. I know you said like, okay, going to the couch and then not realizing that you went to the couch or how you got there, right? But like, what are some like early signs of burnout, or like that like burnout could be very well just around the corner?
Yeah, that's great. So yeah, I feel like the biggest thing with this is it's a lot of our self-talk and this like proactive versus like not proactive mindset. I don't know what the opposite of proactive is, but unproactive mindset. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Sure.
it's when we start to have these thoughts where we start to skip things.
Okay.
Right. So it's like, especially for entrepreneurs, like I could be like, oh, I got to work on this habit tracker. So I don't have to go to bed. Like I need to get this done. So I'm sacrificing this. Like, oh, I want to get this done, so I'm going to skip the gym. I want to get this done, so I'm going to skip the cold shower. So it's when we start to like, this is like the early signs, is like when we start to push things off and like start to procrastinate other things.
Yeah.
And get sucked into our work, because that just leads down this like momentum path of like working and working and working. And all of a sudden, like all our other habits are gone. We're just working like all day, every day. Yeah. And then the burnout comes.
Right. Okay. That's actually so interesting. I was totally expecting like, oh, your brain seems foggy, or you seem to get agitated or something. But that is a really interesting point there. Just how I wouldn't say prioritize, but sort of we lack prioritization and focus, right? That's really interesting. So actually, I remember what I wanted to ask. So because I have 100% experience that where you can't go to sleep because you're so excited about like your work, right? And like literally thinking about clients, you're like, okay, what are we gonna like? How are we gonna do this? Oh my God, this is a great idea, right? It's like, okay, chill, right? So then you throw on like a sleep meditation or something, right? Or that's what I do, right? And I'm like, okay, this will do it. But then, of course, as you said, like the brain starts or continues solving problems in your sleep, right? And then you wake up more excited than ever. And I'm pretty sure I told you this a couple of weeks ago when I was having some troubles, but I like, in my experience, I would just get up and I would just go back to work. It would be like 2 a.m. I'd be like, oh, well, I can't just like push this away. So what would you advise for like entrepreneurs for sure, but anyone who experiences this, where they just wake up feeling super passionate, they know they need sleep, but they just can't chill their brain out. Like, what would you suggest?
Yeah. So again, there's two things. Like one is like, first one is like, yeah, like get up and just go the fuck to work.
Yeah.
Because your brain is on for a reason and it wants to be on.
Yeah.
So it's like it has momentum. So it's like you have to either just go and like exhaust that energy, or you have to shut it down. And shutting it down is possible. It's just it takes time and skill. So yeah, definitely like getting up and just going to work. Be like, okay, I'm gonna go work and like get like an hour and a half in, but then and not also go back to bed.
Yeah.
Like don't just be like, oh cool, I got up at 2 a.m. Like let's have a fucking 25-hour day. Like go back, like catch some sleep.
Yeah.
For sure. But like go exhaust the energy. So the thing is too, like if this is like I said, like there's the sprints, right? So if this is happening like every single day, then we've got a problem, or like whatever, like multiple times a week for like what I've learned with like injuries anyways, and I would make the connection to same with mindset, is anything that goes longer than 3 months, the doctors consider it chronic.
Right.
So this is I feel like this is a really good point for anyone listening, is like, if this has been happening to you for more than 3 months, or like you're getting like 5 hours of sleep a night for like 3 months, now this is chronic. So you have a really strong pattern in your brain of doing this, and it's going to take way more effort for you to reverse that.
Yeah.
A good point to be made. So then the other part is, okay, can we shut off our brain when we wake up? And that's possible. And that's something I've worked on a lot, because a lot of my clients ask this and struggle with this.
Yeah.
And I struggle with it too. So I've really had to force myself to learn this.
Yeah.
And there's many tools for this type of thing, like relaxing your brain, because the same thing like you said of like watching a meditation or listening to the guided meditation.
Yeah.
So yoga nidra is like really good for this. I have a yoga nidra video that I listen to. And the other one is, I think this will be a really good thing to share, which I don't share with a lot of people, but whoever's listening is going to get some gold here. So what the first thing I learned about going to sleep, I don't know how I learned this, but I learned this a long time ago, was that I thought about how the brain works in images, right? Okay. So like that's like the language of the brain. Like we love stories, we love creating images, we love movies. And a good example for this is like anyone that's listening, or like you listening right now, is like imagine your like childhood kitchen, like wherever you grew up. Like you can vividly remember the entire kitchen. Like you could probably like go into the fridge and like imagine the food and like the cupboards and stuff. Yeah. Right? So there's an image in your brain right now. Everyone listening has that image in the brain. That's how the brain like communicates to itself. Yeah. So if we know that's how the brain communicates, then why don't we give it an image or like some kind of video of going to sleep?
Right.
So I have two things that I do with that. The first one is I just imagine this big switch. It actually reminds me of when I used to work on turbines, because we had these like big like electricity switches where it'd be like, and you have to like slam it down.
Okay. Yeah.
And it would remove the electricity so we could work safely. So imagine this like big switch I'd like grab with like 2 hands, and at the top it says awake and at the bottom it says sleep. So I visualize myself like grabbing it and then like slamming it down.
Yeah.
And then I've even made it like more of a concrete switch, because then I have this visualization of this like big metal chain. It's like it's like thickness of my hands, and I like grab the chain and like bring it through this like hook that's on the ground. So it's like all like welded, like thick steel, and I like bring it through there and I loop it through the switch. Then I put a lock on it, and then I put a tag on it, and the tag says whatever I set my alarm for. So like this morning I got up at 5:56 a.m. So in my head I visualize 5:56 a.m. and I lock the chain around the switch. So it's this like really like very concrete, like beefy, like it's time to sleep. We're locked in. I can't unlock this and wake up until my alarm goes off.
That's so cool. So when you mentioned that, this is actually something that I've also like studied and looked into. That just makes me think of neurolinguistic programming, right? So the utilization of the use of like visualization and our emotions and our thoughts attached to it, right? Because that's that's essentially what neurolinguistic programming is, right? It's the thoughts and emotions, well, inevitably the emotions being the thoughts attached to a circumstance, right? So like I know like for like my coaching and whatnot, it's a lot of like pain and pleasure points, right? And essentially reframing your outlook on something. So That's actually really cool. And I have never even considered that, like using that kind of method to falling asleep. That's really cool. I know, like, well, like, I wonder if that's where, like, imagine or counting the sheep comes into play, like, or just counting
Yeah.
sheep over the bed or something like that, right? Like,
That's actually usually when I talk about it, that's how I bring it up because a lot of people know
oh,
that, some people
yeah,
don't. But like if you've ever heard of that, like counting sheep to go to bed, that's probably what somebody did. They were like trying to fall asleep and they're like, oh, why don't I just like count sheep? Maybe they were a shepherd or something. I don't know.
yeah,
So they started counting sheep, and that was the image before falling asleep.
yeah,
So again, the brain is a pattern machine. So
yeah,
it just built the pattern of like, oh, cool. Like every time we imagine the sheep, like once we get to 10, we fall asleep.
yeah,
So like another like to really set this in for anyone listening is like my goal before bed is to like link up as many patterns as possible
mm,
until I fall asleep.
yeah,
Because the brain loves habits, the brain loves patterns.
mm,
So I want to link up as many things as I possibly can that and the end result is sleep.
yeah,
So it's like I'm coming to my room, I turn on my red light, and then I put on my like sleepy time rain noise.
yep.
And then I close up my day, I do my journal, I floss, and I do the visualization as I'm flossing with like the switch.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
and then I'm brushing my teeth, and then I have mouthwash, then I sit on the toilet and I go pee before I go to bed. And like when I'm sitting down, I kind of just like imagine the sleep switch and like I just like almost like fall asleep on the toilet.
Yeah,
And then yeah, then I get undressed, then I set my alarm. Like there's like so many things that link up, and the brain loves this. Like the
so
brain
cool.
just wants everything to be routine and structure. And we
Yep.
have emotions and we have to go with the flow. And I understand that. There's
Mhm.
times though when we can really maximize this, like in the morning and in the night.
Yeah,
So that in the morning we get ready for our day. Right? It's like how many things can we link up in the morning without spending 12 hours in the morning routine
yeah,
to be ready for the day? And how many things can we link up before bed? Again, that's not a 4 hour bedtime routine. So the end result is maybe a good analogy with this actually is like running a marathon,
mm,
right? So in a marathon, you have to run, was it 21 miles or 26 miles?
yeah,
And there's like little like drink stations and checkpoints along the way.
yeah,
So you know, like, oh, cool, I'm at mile 10 because there's a water station here. I'm at mile 15 because there's a water station here.
yep,
And you know where you're going. You're going to finish the damn race.
yeah,
So like imagine the end of the marathon is your sleep.
yeah.
And you want to have as many checkpoints along the way so that you can stay hydrated. I mean, or like so that you can be checked in of like, oh, when am I actually going to sleep?
Huh.
So then your brain has all these checkpoints like, oh, cool, we're actually 30 minutes from sleep. Oh, we're 15 minutes from sleep. Oh, we're going into bed because we just set our alarm.
Yeah.
And your brain is processing all of this without us knowing. So this is where we can like truly maximize being able to get to sleep. I know that was like a crazy tangent on the initial question, but I'm glad we went
No,
there.
that's super cool. So like the entire, so I'm all about like mental rehearsals, right? Like I'm always like, especially like if I'm working with a client and they have like an event coming up that they're really nervous about, it's like, okay, well, we're going to rehearse it, right? And I want you to rehearse it every day doing this, right? Like, for example, like I had a client, she had a very difficult time saying no. So I tasked her to say, to rehearse it, right? To either look in the mirror every day and say no, right? And just get used to saying it and hearing herself say it, right? Just for the sake of hearing it, right? And then putting yourself through those mental rehearsals. But I have never even considered rehearsing going to sleep, which is so interesting, and that actually explains a lot. That's definitely something I'm going to do. Even I don't know if you've heard of this, but I think it was, oh, what's his name, Wiggler, no,
Zig Ziglar?
Zig Ziglar.
Okay. Yeah.
Wiggler. Anyway, he I don't know if it's from him or something like that. He just comes to mind, but I've heard of like practicing and rehearsing how you're going to wake up, right? So I know in the past I've literally, because when I was having difficulty getting up and out of bed, right? Before bed, I would rehearse how I would get up, right? So I would practice it like 3 to 5 times, where as soon as my alarm would go up, I'd be like, okay, like ding, 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 alarm goes off, right? I would clap like 3 times. I'd stand up, I'd spin, and then I'd like put on my shoes or something. And it seems so obnoxious and crazy, but I would rehearse that. And then in the morning, it was like instant, it was immediate, right? It's like, okay, spin 3 times and good to go, smooth sailing. But I've never rehearsed or like even mentally rehearsed going to bed. And I think that's where a lot of people, they just expect it. They just expect that they're going to fall asleep, right? They're just like, oh, it's bedtime. But we don't really know what that means. It's just an empty habit without that intent, right? Or without that true end result, right? Which is getting a solid, like well needed like sleep. So that's so interesting. I like that a lot.
Yeah, just to even hit on that too is like, yeah, we kind of just expect that we should fall asleep.
Yeah.
And what a lot of people do is we're like or like a lot of people are just like in bed on their phones.
Mm,
And that's the worst thing you could do. Like the
totally.
worst thing you could do. Like watching TV or being on your phone before bed is the worst thing you can do because your brain is getting dopamine from that. So
Yeah.
there's a reason why you're on your phone or watching something because it feels good.
Yeah.
And when you feel good, guess what? You don't want to go to bed. So how can we expect like maybe a good analogy to like to really hit this home is like whenever you're on your phone or you're like watching TV before bed, imagine you're actually like running a race or like you're at work or like you're working out. I think about how hard it would be to like run a marathon and just like go to sleep. I mean, you might
Yeah.
be tired, but like your heart is gonna be like crazy.
Totally.
So like when you're on your phone, you're watching TV before bed, like it's the worst possible thing you can do
Hmm.
because your brain is just like consistently feeling good. Or even like a better example would be like just like smoking or like, sorry, I'm doing like 8 layers of analogies, but I want to hit this home of like whenever you watch TV before bed, it's like think if you're just like doing like hard drugs like heroin or like cocaine or something.
Yeah.
Like that's what's going on. Like when you do cocaine, maybe I shouldn't say that. What I've
No, please.
heard about people
No.
who do cocaine is that you don't want to go to bed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So imagine doing some kind of drug that makes you stay awake.
Yeah.
Therefore, it's hard to go to bed.
Yeah.
And going to bed is a skill.
Hmm.
We cannot just expect to go to bed. And you cannot just take melatonin to go to bed.
Right.
Melatonin also not a good idea, or any kind of sleep drugs. I want to hit that home is like not a good idea.
Hmm.
Sleeping is a skill. It's easily learnable if you have enough patience and you're willing to learn. Yeah.
That's yeah, that's awesome. I'm 100% guilty of the melatonin trick, or like it's true. Like it's you don't wake up feeling well rested anyway. Like you just feel like crap, honestly. And then you drink coffee, right? I'm speaking solely from experience, right? So I have gone through that where like I just couldn't sleep at night because I'm so excited, like, hey, but I have to sleep, right? But I have all these, no, no, you gotta sleep. Okay, well, it's not working. I'm just gonna take some melatonin, fall asleep, morning, wake up. I genuinely wake up with like a headache, right? And then I'd be like, okay, coffee, right? And then as we've discussed in the previous episode, right, coffee stays in your system for how long is it? 6 hours?
Yeah, it depends on the person, like 48 hours, but that's
Oh,
the half-life.
right,
So
right,
like
right.
50% of it is gone in 48 hours, and then you still have
Yeah.
to get rid of another 25%, and then another whatever, it's like half-life thing. So it stays for a while.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And then like there's just this is vicious process, right? And I think a lot of people, and I'm 100% biased in this sense, but especially like entrepreneurs have this, and I don't know if you can speak to this, have this fear of like, for example, taking naps, right, and wasting time, right, and they see sleep as like a waste of time, and when they could be getting work done, and so on and so forth. I don't know. Have you experienced that, like working with your clients, or like even yourself?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, totally. Yeah,
yeah,
because especially for some entrepreneurs, when they reach a certain level, or they're really like I need to make money, or they just like have like a crazy drive, which is really cool about entrepreneurs. They don't want to do anything but work.
yeah.
And like I've been there too. It's like, oh man, like I gotta sleep. Like, yeah, you gotta sleep. So yeah, this is where I like to hit home with why it's important, especially for entrepreneurs to sleep. And I have a huge sleep presentation, so I'll see if I can remember the like data points. But so the biggest thing is with REM sleep. So REM is rapid eye movement
Right.
sleep, which is also dream sleep.
Yeah.
And the way our sleep system, like the way we've been engineered by God, is that we get a lot of our dream sleep at the end of our sleep. So that's
Mhm.
why normally like in the mornings we wake up and we're like, oh, crazy dream, or if we remember it, whatever. So the brain, the body, the human prioritizes deep sleep for the first half of the sleep mostly, which is a lot of recovery. So it's like repairing, it's like releasing growth hormones, it's repairing your bones and mission or bones, tissues, and muscles, and like healing thing. Your immune system kicks on and maybe like heals
Right.
any sickness you might have.
Yeah.
So it prioritizes that. It's like we need to heal the body. And then in the last half of sleep, it's like, oh, cool, let's dream. Like, let's go into dreamland. So if we get less sleep, our body doesn't just like cut that in half still, right? So if we get 8 hours, it goes like 4 and 4, we'll say for easy math. But if you get 6, it doesn't go 3 and 3.
Right.
It still goes 4 for deep, and then you get 2 for the REM stuff.
Huh.
So you miss out on REM. And the crazy thing that happens if we start getting like, say we always get 6 hours of sleep a night, there's actually not a lot of time for the REM, dream sleep. And then say like one night we do get a bunch of sleep,
Mm.
your brain will actually like supercharge your REM sleep. So if anyone's listening and they've had like crazy freaking dreams and they don't sleep lots, or like one night they still don't sleep lots, but they had like crazy intense dreams, because your brain's like, we need to dream, like we need REM sleep. And I'll talk about more of it now, but like
Yeah.
you can't, the body doesn't know how to like re-engineer its own sleep. Like we weren't built for that. It's like God
Yeah.
was like, you must sleep as much as you need to sleep and then enjoy life. And we're like, I want to enjoy more life, so I'm not going to sleep. Anyways, so again, why REM is so important for entrepreneurs is because when we dream, and everyone can probably relate to their dreams of like having some kind of feeling or experience they had that day. And then in the dream, it's like a similar feeling or experience or kind of connected to some past memory.
Yeah.
So what the brain is actually doing is it's taking what happened during the day, which our memories get stored in our hippocampus, which is the short-term memory, and it's trying to like push that into and connect the dots.
Mm.
But it doesn't do that strategically. It's just like, oh, cool. Like we had this kind of feeling and emotion. Like, what about this? And like, what about this? That's why dreams are so weird and crazy, because
Yeah.
the brain is like processing these memories and trying to connect them and file them in the storage system, so it like knows where to put them. So what's really cool about that, especially for entrepreneurs, is because we get paid to create and we get
Yeah.
paid to solve problems. That's what the brain does when it's dreaming. It's doing that for you. So for any entrepreneurs who get paid to do these things, create and solve problems, you're actually like screwing yourself over,
Mhm.
because while you're sleeping, your brain is doing that at a rate and process that you can't do while you're awake.
Right. That's actually wow. It's actually really I like I'm glad you worded it that way. It definitely well, for sure, it definitely makes me feel like I should be sleeping more or better or paying or being more responsible about it. That's for sure. Um, wow. Yeah, and going back like at the beginning of the conversation when you said we aren't really educated on sleep. I mean, we hear the typical, oh, you need 8 hours a night, right? It's kind of like, oh, you need a certain amount of dairy in your day or in your meals or bread or like wheat or like no no like we're beyond this, all right. um so how like I know like with other than like your expertise and you putting this information, very important information at that out there, how would you ideally like to see the general public, not just like entrepreneurs, but like the general public start to pick up and learn about this more? Like, how would you ideally like to see that happening if that be the
Yeah,
case?
it's a good question. It's like, can I solve the world's sleep problem
Are you the
with
hero?
one
You are
question?
the hero. This is what the world needs, Jordan. This is what we've been waiting for, right?
Instead of the national anthem before school, we'll play this podcast.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm curious, right? I
Yeah,
always,
no, I'll share on the answer. I was just playing with
yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so I feel like, I mean, the biggest thing is education.
yeah,
And the easiest way I've learned to educate myself is going on YouTube
yeah,
and just learning about sleep. Because that to me is like really easy. And when people, especially scientists, I mean, they're kind of boring, some of them. So that's an understanding, but just like how I got here is that I read a book and I spent like hours and hours and hours on YouTube learning about
yeah.
sleep. Like all these scientists and podcasts, I was like just digesting, digesting, digesting.
Love it.
And that's a lot easier than actually reading their scientific research articles. Like that's the like dry, boring stuff that thankfully the scientists do the work, read it, and then like they're like, oh cool, let me make a video so like everyone can listen.
Yeah,
But definitely like if people are interested in learning more about sleep, like an easy way is just to go to YouTube and be like, how to sleep better, like why we sleep, or like is sleep important? Things like
right.
that. And just like watching videos and learning and processing. And then what the biggest thing I want to hit home for anyone listening to is like we live in a world where we just want to take a pill or drink something and solve the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do that, but understand that in 40 years, if you make it that far, anyways, hopefully we all do,
Mm-hmm.
that's when it's going to hit you.
Yeah.
And that's like really impossible for humans to understand and process. Like we really can't. But I really want to hit that home is like you drinking the coffee today, you taking the melatonin pill tonight, whatever it is, like that doesn't really affect you today. But when you do it every single day or X amount of days for 40 years,
Yeah.
that's when you get dementia. That's when you get diabetes. That's when your body just fucking hurts. And you're like, oh, I'm old. But like, I know a guy who just turned 60 and he can do more push-ups than I can.
Yeah.
So when we need to understand that these are all skills that we can learn.
Mhm.
And they're also skills that people have already learned and know how to teach it really well,
Yeah.
which is amazing. Like
Yeah.
the fact that we are in this current time of life and we could just watch a YouTube video and learn about sleep. Think of like your grandparents.
Mhm.
They didn't have that. No idea, like no education. You just trusted like what your friend said, or like then you'd have to go and get a book. Right? Like people don't even read books. Actually, somebody showed me the stat was like the average person reads less than 2 books a year.
What?
And I was like, yeah, I was like, what?
What the?
All of the answers are in the books.
I
Like
know.
all of my success in life has been achieved because I've read. I mean, I don't read that many. I read like 10 books a year, but those last 10 books have changed my entire life.
Yep.
Anyways, that's a big tangent, but
Yeah.
we don't even have to do that. Like we could just watch the 10-minute YouTube video from the guy who wrote the book
Yeah.
and still get that knowledge.
Yeah.
And just the understanding that like whatever problem you have, we're talking specifically about sleep, like there's a success recipe out there for sleep. I've learned it. I have other people with it. There's a bunch of content on the internet that you can just watch and learn these things. But in order to do that, you have to change this mindset of that I can just take this or drink this and it'll solve my problems, because it won't. It'll solve the problem tonight. But like I said, like the damage you're doing, and especially over the long term, if you want to live life, if you want to see your grandkids and know their names and you want to do these crazy things with your life, which I would assume a lot of people do,
Yeah.
or you want to be happy and not have to rely on substances to like go to bed and wake up every day,
Yeah.
then taking the time to do a bit of research, connect with people who know how to solve this problem, you'd be surprised at how easy it is.
For sure, for sure. And that's something I'm always encouraging people to do as well, right? We have like the five, some people call it like the famous five exercise, right? Or just like the five people you hang around with the most. But I like to open that up to five different resources that you often refer to, right? And then if like the answer is already out there, it's been done before, like and that's when you want to achieve something, or you need like that equation or the answers, you just have to look for it. You could literally type it in the Google search and it's there, right? And then it's just a matter of like implementing it into your own lifestyle, right? But I always encourage people to find like at least five sources where they can either like look up to, right, that like represent people, or like normally like people who also represent like their goals and what they're working towards achieving, what if they've already achieved it, right? And then their habits, their routines, so on and so forth. That's awesome. I'm actually really glad you mentioned that as well. So okay, so for those listening who are starting to experience burnout, right, or they feel that it might be a concern to them, or something like that, what can you advise them to do today, or start doing, or focusing on today?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, so I mean, awesome that you're having this awareness, or maybe you have burnt out, maybe it's a close call, like you're alive, that's great. Now it's time to make that shift. So it's like, how do we start? And the biggest thing I've learned, and how I've been having more awareness on myself and what I do in my day-to-day or week to week, it's just having this proactive mindset. So, well, before even having that proactive mindset, it's like understanding that I am going to burn out. And I did burn out. And it's like, hey, like assessing that. It's like, hey, like I burnt out. I fell asleep at the wheel. Why did that happen? So I'm assessing that. I'm like, okay, well, I work long days and then I have to drive 40 minutes. Like I can quickly understand that, like, and I'm only sleeping 6 hours a night.
Yeah.
So if you see that and you're not sleeping enough and you're working lots, understanding that, like, oh, cool. Like when I almost crashed my car, like I can look back and be like, oh, cool. Like I worked 20 days straight and I'm only getting 6 hours of sleep a night. That makes sense. So you will reach your burnout and you'll be like, okay, well, that's like when I burn out. So now I'm starting to build this proactive mindset. I'm like, hey, like, how do I get a little bit more sleep and a little bit more rest and start taking care of myself more during this process so that I don't hit the burnout?
Yeah.
And this is why I say it's different for everybody, because some people can work a bit more, some people have to work a bit less. Like I need more sleep than other people. So this is the game and the patience you have to start to learn about yourself and like, what do you need to not burn out?
Right.
Like for me, I need to get a couple 6 sleep cycles a week so that I don't burn out. I need to have my meditation in the morning. I need to have my cold. Like I need to do certain things to take care of myself so I can work and not burn out. So it's really just starting this process of assessing how you got here, and then seeing now like where you can be proactive and getting more sleep, getting more rest, maybe taking like naps if you have to, just do it before 2 p.m. And spending time with yourself and like taking care of yourself. Like a big thing I want to just like wrap this up with is like the more you take care of yourself, the easier it is to go to work. Like, the more you take care of yourself, the happier you are. The more you take care of yourself, like everything is way more abundant when you take care of yourself. And we tell ourselves this lie of like, no, like I need to work more, I need to do more things to have all these things. Like when I make more money, I'll be more happy. When I make more money, I'll have more time.
Yeah.
And the truth is no, because you're gonna, again, the brain is a pattern machine. So you're just gonna get into momentum of like making more money, working more, making more money, working more.
Yeah.
Definitely for the entrepreneur example. And then you'll get there and you'll be like, well, for some people, they get there and like, I'm not happy, but I have all this money and I don't know how to not work because I get all of my happiness from work. So now there's this whole reverse engineering process of like, again, learning how to be proactive and take care of ourselves, because that's where the happiness is. Nobody wants to be a slave. Yet some entrepreneurs make themselves slaves and then they're like, why am I not happy?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for all of that. And for those who do want to take the next step in preventing and or stopping this burnout, and essentially just ensuring that they can stay proactive and still effective with not just their work and whatnot, like especially for entrepreneurs, but just their life in general, where can they find you? Because honestly, as of now, you are like the number one source. Like I've gone to you, and even the tips and tricks you've given me have already helped me a ton. So I want everyone to know where they can find you.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, happy to help. Yeah, so I spend all my time on Facebook right now. In the future, that may change. But yeah, you can find me on Facebook, Jordan Tomasone. And the funny looking dude with the glasses. I think I have like an orange background, and you'll see lots of posts about that. And I also take daily shower cap selfies, so you see my stories. But yeah, and then so find me on Facebook, add me as a friend. You send me a message, like send me the message. I promise to get 5 sleep cycles a night. I'll send you the PDF I have on sleep. I actually have 2 PDFs, which is basically all you need that I've learned with hours and hours and now years of studying and practicing sleep. I'd be happy to give that to anyone who sends me that message.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. Well, Jordan, thank you so much. This has been super informative, and now I just want to go take a nap. So thank you very much for joining us again today. I think a lot of people are leaving this with a lot of information and much greater guidance, understanding as to sleep and burnout. So thank you.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.